Hi guys, my name's Ursi and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to give you a rundown of my Book of the Month selections for the past year. If that's something that interests you, then stick around. In case you didn't know, Book of the Month is a monthly book subscription service. I heard about it a year ago from BookTube and I decided to give it a try because it was receiving really good reviews. And a lot of the books that people were saying that they were getting were books that I was really interested in reading, so I just decided to give it a try. I'll leave a referral link in my description box that all customers get. It's not a sponsored link, it's just a subscription link that you get. And if you sign up using my link, my referral link, I think I get a credit for a book and you get a discount on the books, but they give you one every month. And so I'll just leave mine in the description box in case you're interested. But let's talk about my Book of the Month picks for the past year. My latest pick was Ariadne by Jennifer Saint, and this is supposed to be a Greek retelling of Ariadne. So she's one of the lesser known deities or goddesses, or I'm not even sure if she has powers, but she probably does. What made me select this one was that it was advertised for fans of Circe by Madeline Miller, which is one of my all-time favorite books. So I was like, sold. If I'm getting my gods family trees right, she's supposed to be the niece of Circe, and she falls in love with Theseus, who she winds up helping to defeat the Minotaur, which is her brother, and they escape, and betrayal soon follows. And it's supposed to be like really sad too. I haven't read this yet, being that I just got it, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be great. So that's Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. My April pick was The Hunting Wives by Cobb, and this is supposed to be an early release thriller book. I'm pretty sure it's already on shelves at bookstores and stuff, but at the time this was an early release. So this is supposed to be for fans of like Gossip Girl, Desperate Housewives, aka Guilty Pleasures. And this book follows Sophie and her obsession with Margot, who's like a high society member to this exclusive country club type shooting club for women of the town that they live in. And being that it was advertised that way as like Desperate Housewives meets Gossip Girl meets like the Southern Book Club or something, I thought it just sounded really fun and a lot of guilty pleasure vibes. So that's why I picked this one up. So that's The Hunting Wives by Cobb. The next two picks, which I still haven't gotten to them yet because I feel like I need to emotionally prepare myself to read both of these, but I'm actually really excited to read both of these. And that's The Four Winds by Kristin Hannah and The Nightingale by the same author. So this is the one that was one of the selections for the month, and then I added on The Nightingale. And both of these are historical fiction books. Despite hearing amazing things about this author, I still haven't read any of her books, but I've heard really great things about both of these. I believe this one's supposed to be adapted into a movie pretty soon. Even my husband was really interested in it when I read the synopsis to him. He's like, that sounds like a really good movie. And I was like, yeah, I know, right? So this one follows two sisters during World War II in Paris. And The Four Winds follows a mother and a wife, I think it's the same person, during the Great Depression. So they're both supposed to be really hard-hitting, very emotional, tug on your heartstrings kind of thing. So I'm really excited to read both of these. So that's The Four Winds and The Nightingale by Kristin Hannah. What's funny is that one of the picks from that month was Infinite Country by Patricia Engel, and I actually borrowed this from my library, and I just finished this last night, and it's an amazing book. It's a story about a Colombian family torn apart by immigration and the so-called American dream. So I just kind of wanted to mention it and throw it out there because this is a really great book and you can get it through Book of the Month as well. So that's Infinite Country by Patricia Engel. My January pick was a literary fiction book called The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. Again, nothing but amazing reviews that I've heard about this one, and particularly from Greg from Supposedly Fun and Russel from Ink and Paper Blog. They both really love this book. I don't want to say enjoyed because it's supposed to be really sad and violent and stuff, because it follows two enslaved men and their romance and how it affects the lives of the people that live on that plantation. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a really great book, but gut-wrenching, you know what I mean? So it's hard to say that I'm gonna enjoy it in the sense of the writing and the way that the author is able to tell a beautiful story. That's The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. Let's talk about my December pick. I selected The Office of Historical Corrections by Danielle Evans. This is a collection of short stories themed around history and how it's written, perceived, and how it changes. So I was a history major in college, and I really find the idea of evolving history to be really interesting. The idea that our interpretation of certain events can evolve or change over time because of the way that society evolved. And I feel like this book goes into that in a really interesting way. So that's The Office of Historical Corrections by Danielle Evans. My October pick was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Shwab. And this is a fantasy story that was super hyped on BookTube. And it follows a woman who makes a deal with the devil for immortality, but people can never remember her until someone does. So that's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Shwab. September 2020 had a really great selection of books, and the one that I wound up picking was Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson. And this is supposed to be a nonfiction book. I haven't read this yet because I want to read her other book, The Warmth of Other Suns, and they both deal with race in the United States. This one in particular, she argues that the racial system in the United States can be compared or examined through the lens of caste systems from India and Nazi Germany, and she kind of exposes the similarities and differences between the two. So this has received tons of great reviews. I haven't gotten to this yet either, just because this is a big book. So I haven't gotten to it yet, but I will pretty soon. So that's Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson. In August, I grabbed 2 out of the 5 selections. First, I picked Atomic Love by Jennie Fields. This is a historical romance that takes place during the Cold War. So we have espionage, a forbidden love triangle, and a beautiful cover. So what more can you ask for? And what I did ask for was The Death of Vivek OG by Akwaeke Emezi. Another stunning cover. And this is a literary fiction book that takes place in Nigeria, and it involves the death of Vivek OG. Okay, so in July, I wound up selecting the horror pick, and that was The Shadows by Alex North. So definitely a genre I don't read much, but this one sounded really intriguing. It's supposed to be a dark, psychological, imaginative murder horror story. And surprise, surprise, I still haven't read this one yet. But I'll probably read it around like Halloween or something, but maybe even sooner, who knows, depends on what's on my TBR. But this one sounded really good to me. I wound up picking it for this month. And finally, the first book that I actually picked for Book of the Month as a subscriber was The Book of Longing by Sue Monk Kidd. This is the first book that I got with Book of the Month. I got this in May 2020. And this is a historical fiction book which reimagines the life of Jesucristo, Jesus Christ, if he were to have a feminist wife. Very, very interesting, if I do say so myself. But even though that was my last pick, the next few books I'm going to talk about were also add-ons. I mentioned a few add-ons that I remembered with some of the picks, but these, I don't exactly remember what month I got them in, but these were just some of the add-ons that I got with this service. First, I'm going to talk about 2 sci-fi picks, and that's Ready Player One and Ready Player Two, both by Ernest Cline. I read both of these recently, so this is a 5-star book, and this was a 4-star book. And both of these follow Wade Watts, or Parzival, as he completes different quests in the virtual reality game called The Oasis. So really great books. Really love these. Super fun. Annotated this one quite a bit. Really good reads. Another pick that I got was The City We Became by N.K. Jemison. And this is a fantasy book. I think it's an urban fantasy. I'm not sure. This is supposed to be about the origin of New York City. If the city was created by gods, and each of the boroughs represent one of the gods that helped form the city of New York. So being that I'm from New York City, I actually am really excited to read this, but I want to read her other book first, and that's the 5th season. So I want to read that series first because I think this is a new series and this is the only book that's out from it. So I'm going to go into her other series first and then dive into this one. And finally, Dominicana by Angie Cruz. This is a 5-star read. I highly recommend. One of my all-time favorite books. If you want an immigrant story that hits, an immigrant story that really gives you a perspective on what it's like to be a Dominican woman living in New York City with a shitty husband, and you can't speak English, and you hustle to make that money, and you got a kid on the way that you got to take care of, and you just want to figure out how to live your life. This is that book. This book is so good. I cannot stress how amazing this book is. She's actually coming out with a translation of this into Spanish, and I'm actually going to gift that to my mom so that way she can read it as well. But this is the book. So good. Bonus. The last book I'm going to talk about. This is sort of another bonus because I didn't actually get it from Book of the Month, but it's a Book of the Month edition of this book, and that's Circe by Madeline Miller. I actually lent this book to my friend, so this is just the dust jacket. But this is another fantasy Greek retelling that actually brought us around full circle because being that I love this book so much is the reason why I chose this month's pick of Ariadne. But yes, this is another fantasy Greek retelling following Circe and her life and her journey towards finding herself. So that's my collection. Having been a customer for a year, I really love the books that I chose. I haven't been disappointed with the ones that I've read. Therefore, I cannot complain. So that was a lot of books. I was probably super long-winded in this video, so I'm gonna stop here. If you have any of these books or if you've read any of them, let me know in the comments what you think. Are these books that you're gonna be adding to your TBR? Are these books that you've read? Have you enjoyed any of these books? Let me know what you think. I'll leave my referral link in the description box for Book of the Month. I'll also leave links to all of my socials. Please consider subscribing before you go, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you guys soon.